still in my face. Marina Mabrey, bad out of hell, chucks Caitlin Clark to the ground.
We had a chance to discuss what had just transpired. That game was just insane. For a moment, we are completely bored. The referees pretend they didn't witness anything as Caitlin is pushed to the ground and struck in the face. Nothing, no ejections. Something doesn't feel right. The referees did nothing when Caitlin Clark was shoved to the ground and jabbed in the eye. The game continued as if nothing had happened, and nobody was suspended. The weird part comes next. The WNBA began to gain popularity after all of that. Views increased. The sales of tickets took off. Everyone is discussing it. I'm beginning to believe that this may have involved more than simply poor refereeing. Perhaps WNBA Commissioner Kathy Angelber intentionally allowed this to occur. Perhaps she was aware that the drama would draw attention. I realize that seems crazy, but when you consider everything that has transpired, it makes some sense. There was more to this game than just basketball, so let's dissect it all. There's more going on.
Mind you, JC Sheldon has been hitting Caitlin in the face all game, fouling all game. The refs don't care. The refs act like their whistles are broke. She's fouling her nonstop again, hits her in the face, and watch this.
I mean, is that displacement? I think it is.
Caitlin Clark was being smothered by JCS Sheldon, who has a history of getting rough, as he guarded her full court. Not merely playing defense, but really pursuing her as if it were a retaliation. And it was, in a sense. Recall that these two have a long history dating back to their undergraduate years. Iowa versus Ohio State. Additionally, Caitlin has an unblemished record of 12-0 against Sheldon. As you are already aware, Jackie had a point to prove when she entered this competition. The swipe follows. A firm grasp that reaches Caitlin's eyeball. Not her eye, not the wrist, nor the ball. After flinching back in agony, Clark shoves G to make room. And who wouldn't really? However, the place descends into madness rather than calming down. This was not a chance occurrence. The change in energy was palpable. The audience responded. The musicians began to chirp. We were obviously no longer merely watching basketball. A rivalry was exploding in front of us. Did that constitute a blatant foul? 100%. But that's not what the referees called it. After then, things began to fall apart. Why doesn't this league take eye contact like that more seriously? As if the eye poke wasn't unpleasant enough, Marina Mabrey decided she wanted smoking after witnessing Caitlin push Jackie. She darts across the court and throws Caitlin to the ground, launching her into the air. It wasn't a play in basketball. It was a sort of play about being angry and going to create a scene. It was startling, because everyone watching expected an instant ejection, not because it was particularly violent. NBA players are ejected for far less than that, really. However, after spending 15 minutes at the monitor, the referees only gave Marina a technical foul. That's all. Why are we here? It's simply a technical foul when you push a player off the ball to the ground. Hurry up! Everyone was outraged by this moment. Broadcasters couldn't understand. Social media was being flooded with fans. Even the bench guys were clearly perplexed. What does it take to get kicked out of the WNBA if Marina isn't dismissed for that? What's the message there? That Caitlin Clark's season is open because that's how it felt.
Not even exaggerating, you guys, like 15 minutes. 15 minutes they are watching this play over and over. They are seeing who pushed who. What did Tina Charles do? What did Marina Mabrey do? What did JC Sheldon do? And mind you, the reporters at the time, the announcers here are saying, of course, Marina Mabrey is going to get ejected because that was unwarranted. She literally came out of nowhere and chucked Caitlin Clark. There should be a flagrant one, of course, on JC Sheldon because she swiped her and hit her in the eyeball. Whether it is intentional or not, you can still have a flagrant call.
After all the turmoil, this section is embarrassing. So let's speak about the refs. The referees eventually move to the monitor and take their sweet time after Caitlin is prodded, shoved, teammates yell, and benches are disturbed. 15 complete minutes. All of us had the same thought. Someone is being kicked out. Marina had to be the one. Perhaps even JC. You don't simply say, "Yep, play on," after seeing a play for 15 minutes.
Is what they called, you guys. This is what they called. Caitlin Clark, Marina Mabrey, Tina Charles were assessed with technical fouls on Tuesday. Caitlin, Marina, and Tina Charles. Technical fouls. That's it. Technical fouls. That's it. and JC Sheldon was assessed with a flagrant 1 foul, and no players were ejected. Now, you guys, I was on live, and you could just see the shock in my face. Like, I don't even know. I need to go back and watch my reaction. I was losing it, and you guys were in chat like, what is going on? What is happening? How was that the call? After 15 minutes of deliberating, that's what you call 3 texts and a flagrant.
But you know what? They only called a flagrant 1 on JC Sheldon and 3 technicals on Tina Charles, Marina, and Caitlin. That's all. No one ejected. The broadcast experts are baffled by the question, what does a player have to do to get tossed in this league? It's a joke. The fans were taken aback. When the referees called the call, even the players appeared perplexed. The problem is that it wasn't merely a poor decision. The game was not under control. They lost the locker room the instant those referees allowed that to happen without protest. The audience left them. Do you believe they would have used the same term if Brianna Stewart or A.A. Wilson had been the one shoved? Caitlin Clark and JCS Sheldon keep running into one another for a purpose. History is what it is. In college, Caitlin's Iowa team was invincible against JC and Ohio State. And in this game, you could see that frustration erupting. Throughout the entire night, Jackie was Caitlin's face guard, lifting her 94 feet, bodying her on all screens, grabbing her arms, and invading her personal space. It was more than just combative defense. Payback was how it felt. They let it all go, the referees. And G became more hostile the longer it remained uncalled. When you combine it with Marina's shoddy shot, the Indiana Fever felt more like they were in a street brawl than a basketball contest. What occurs when referees fail to perform their duties? It is left to the players to handle themselves. We witnessed years of animosity, disdain, and rivalry erupting precisely like that. It raises the question of whether game histories should be provided to these referees. In order to keep ahead of the game, should they be aware of which matches could blow up? You could see it coming from the opening tip of this one. This was not a single poor decision. The entire game consisted of missed calls. You witnessed off-ball hits, hands grabbing jerseys, body checks on the perimeter, players getting hacked, and yes, even hair pulls throughout the entire evening. Nothing was called, and there were real hair pulls. Caitlin wasn't the only one. Kelsey Mitchell was being physically assaulted. It was impossible for Lexi Hall to move without getting bumped. Defenders were hand-checking like it was 1995, even on simple dribbles. Crickets, the referees. It's more than just one game now. The players are aware that the WNBA's refereeing has been subpar throughout the season. Because the referees weren't stopping it, the game blew up. Sophie Cunningham did what she did for that reason. How many dirty plays must we witness before the league intervenes? May I ask, why aren't these referees held to higher standards? The world's top women's basketball league is this one. Better officiating is deserved. The athletes should be shielded. The game reaches its climax at this point. JCS Sheldon is taking a quick break in the late fourth quarter. There with her is Sophie Cunningham. Then, without warning, Sophie throws her to the ground with a hard foul. Did it look clean? Not at all. Was it deliberate? Of course. Was it risky, though? Not in my opinion. She wasn't slammed by Sophie. She didn't strike her in the air. She simply took hold of her and lowered her. It was in control. It was powerful. However, it was not intended to cause harm. It was intended to convey a message.
On this, she bear hugged her, took her to the ground. Yes, it was intentional. It was absolutely intentional. It was, to me, payback for what was happening the entire game. But she did it in a way that she wasn't going to injure JC. She was just making it known, like, if the refs aren't going to handle it, I will handle it.
And that was a plain and loud statement. Caitlin Clark won't be bullied on our floor by you. G appeared, poised to strike. The benches were cleared. Security became engaged. As if she were the people's champion, fans began screaming Sophie's name. And, to be honest, she was. This is where the actual argument lies. Was Sophie doing what the referees wouldn't do, or was she mistaken? Occasionally, when the referees lose control, the players are forced to act independently. Coach Stephanie White didn't mince words after the game. She really shouldn't have, too. Coach White intervened when a reporter questioned Caitlin about her technology, saying, "I'll take that." Then she left. The league is becoming more physical, the players are getting better, and the teams are getting better, but the officiating isn't, she stated. Games are becoming out of hand as a result. She claimed that despite her warning in the first quarter that the game would be chippy, the referees failed to anticipate it. And she's absolutely correct. After 4 quarters of building tension, you cannot pretend to be shocked when players lose it. The popularity of this game did not happen overnight. There were signs. The referees simply disregarded them. This kind of player protection shouldn't be required of coaches. That is the role of the officials. However, Stephanie White took the initiative and expressed what all of the league's coaches have likely been considering. Was she the only one with the courage to tell the truth, or was she acting inappropriately? Let's be honest. For all the wrong reasons, this game went viral. There were videos of Caitlyn being shoved everywhere on ESPN. NBA players were discussing it on Twitter. WNBA supporters were furious. And suddenly, non-fans who had never attended a Fever game were discussing Sophie Cunningham as if she were Ron Artest. However, is that the league's true strategy for attracting attention? On the court, we have players of all generations. Aaliyah Boston, Kelsey Mitchell, A.A. Wilson, and Caitlin Clark. However, chaos rather than competence is the reason the WNBA is popular. Fans enjoy the drama, don't get me wrong, but this isn't the kind of publicity that creates a league. If leadership doesn't intervene, this is the type that destroys it. Now what? Is Kathy Angelbert going to take action? Will there be referee accountability, penalties, and suspensions? Because it gives every gamer out there a clear message if nothing happens. You'll get away with playing dirty. Does the WNBA actually want that brand? Is Kathy Angelbert responsible for all of this mayhem? Alright, listen to me. What if the officiating wasn't the only issue? What if this game wasn't only illegal? What if this was what Kathy Angelbert desired? Yes, I did say that. Consider it. Ticket sales have surged when Caitlin Clark joined the WNBA. The ratings have increased. There are headlines everywhere. However, we are now discussing viral anarchy. Fans can't stop watching as games transform into WWE matches. Players are shoved, brawls break out, and fights ensue. The worst part is still to come. Not one referee received a suspension. Caitlin Clark was pushed to the ground by Marina Maberry. No ejection. Even after analyzing the play for 15 minutes, the referees were still unable to get it right. Absence of accountability and repercussions. The league didn't want this turmoil, are you telling me? Hurry up! Nobody is a fool like Kathy Angelbert. She is aware that controversy means clicks and money. Let's face it, Caitlin Clark is being harassed. The transformation of Sophie Cunningham into a bodyguard. Free marketing is when fans go crazy. I must now ask you, is Kathy simply ignoring it? Or is she working behind the scenes to make the WNBA an event that everyone must watch? Is this a coincidence? Or is it a purposeful move? Here we are, then. Caitlin Clark only received a technical after being pushed to the ground and pierced in the eye. Sophie Cunningham intervened on her behalf. A brawl broke out during the game. The coach had to take the stage to defend her players after the referees lost control. This goes beyond a single game. It concerns the WNBA's future. The league is expanding. It's broadcast on television. People are observing. But what happens if celebrities like Caitlyn are gravely injured if they aren't protected? What happens if Sophie, a beloved player, is suspended for doing something that the referees wouldn't? This is an amusement. It serves as a warning. Before a more serious issue arises, the WNBA must organize its affairs. What do you think should happen next, then? Is it time to suspend Marina Maberry? Should the referees be held accountable? Should fans of Clark and the Fever receive an apology from the league? Leave a comment below with your opinions. If you agree, like the video. And keep speaking up if you want to see the WNBA undergo significant change, because this league can no longer ignore it.